hey, technically I'm still new to YouTube. Technically, even though I've had an account for a very, very long time, but I'm very new to doing the videos, very new to editing, which is probably really obvious to absolutely everyone, especially me, because I had to completely refilm all of this. This is the second time I'm doing this. First time I didn't have all the lights on. So we were in darkness, which sounds like it'd aesthetically be really, really nice, but no, it just means the picture is really grainy. So, hi guys. I know it's been a really long time since I last filmed. A lot's been going on. I am creating an year in review kind of video if you're interested in that, but it has already been way too long since I started my channel and I really, really need to do this tag. So we're just gonna jump into the Authortuber tag. This tag was created by Jenna Steety, I believe is how you pronounce her name. I will leave information for her channel and the video that prompted this down below. Okay, so the very first question is a pitch for your story, and since I just got, I would say, about 2/3 done with my second revision for my very first novel I ever wrote, I think we're gonna go with that one. I do have one other novel that's complete and another novel that is also around the 2/3-ish. Editing Corey here. I didn't really like the first pitch I did, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and try that sucker again. So this is a pitch for Clock Strikes. Alex had sworn they had chased the alien life form into the locked station greenhouse. At least it seemed like a greenhouse. It's only when their communication is suddenly cut off from their main ship and a large aircraft appears above them that Alex realizes their investigation and rescue mission was one they were in no way prepared to handle. Weaving in and out of dimensions, ex-military cadet Alex must adapt and face every demon they have if they want to return to their world and save the last survivor on the abandoned mining station. If you were a book, how would you pitch yourself? That's a really weird one, but pretty much this is like, if it's a job interview, we're gonna do this a little more casually because I hate that part of job interviews. But let's see if I can manage it. So I was raised on old sci-fi movies, which explains my love of old sci-fi. And by old sci-fi, mostly I mean B movies. I was raised on things like Plan 9 from Outer Space. So if you haven't seen that film, high recommend. It is absolutely ridiculous. Hubcaps from Strings level ridiculous. It's got Bela Lugosi in it. It's got Vampira. I don't know what else you want in a B movie. It is about the only person missing is Vincent Price, who is my favorite black and white actor ever. I mean, he's great. But that probably gives you a little bit of an idea as to why my aesthetic is the way it is. I was also raised on things like Mystery Science Theater 3000, the original Star Wars, the old original Star Trek, that kind of stuff. I also really love, one of my favorite authors is Ray Bradbury. If you know him from school because you were required to read that Fahrenheit book, I don't think that's his best. It's good, don't get me wrong, but the man had to write it pretty much in one sitting. He had slot times to write it with a typewriter. He had almost no editing. It's good, and considering the restraints he was under, it's very good, but it's not his best in my opinion. Highly recommend his short stories. He's got so many short stories. They're really, really good. High recommend. Check those out. I was raised in a desert, so I have a love of rain, a love of the smell of rain. If you ever hear me say the smell of rain, it's very unique to the desert. Certain plants we have here actually release certain oils right before rain happens, and this assists them in obtaining as much moisture as possible when the rain actually hits. So there's this smell in the air right before and sometimes right during the very beginning of rain. It's very unique to the desert. I love that smell. No one's been able to replicate it in a perfume, but yeah, it's the best. I absolutely love it. So I have a love that. Sour candy, love sour candy, probably more than I should. And yeah, that's a decent portion about me, I guess. Oh, and I'm gonna be living in Japan for a year. Expect some more videos in Japan for sure. because I'll be living there for a year. What do you usually write? Usually science fiction, a little bit of fantasy. My fantasy tends to get a little creepy here and there. Also gothic epistolary, literary fiction, but it's primarily science fiction with a little bit of fantasy. Urban fantasy, I've been writing that quite a bit often as well. What will you never write? I don't like using the term never. A couple of years ago when I was younger, I probably would have said erotica. I don't think I'm completely against writing something like that anymore. I mean, I would definitely be laughing the entire time, but I'm not completely against writing it. I think as far as what I really, really would not want to write, definitely would be gore. I don't like reading gore. I really hate it, and I have a feeling that that's the one thing that'd be really, really hard to write for me, because I don't even like reading it. I really hate it. So that one, for sure. Why do you write? So kind of how did you start writing? For me, I read an insane amount. I mean, I was that kid that was killing the Book It program. Y'all remember the Book It program? Yeah, you get this little pen with these tiny little stickers you put on it, and you get free pizza at Pizza Hut. Oh yeah, I killed it. I would read about 10 to 12 books a week. A week. That was the height. And I mean, I was getting so bad. My mom, God bless her, she was just rising my goals every single time, just trying to keep up with me, because I was slaughtering my goals, slaughtering it dead. I would be completely done with my entire summer goal before most kids started their summer goal. It was insane. So, but the thing was, I was reading so many books, so many of these stories and these characters, and I was creating worlds of my own, creating characters of my own. And they didn't exist yet. They weren't in any of these books. I was just creating them. They were in my head. And I got to a point where I wanted what was in my head to be on paper. I wanted them to be stories. And so I tried my best, and my early writing is really terrible for a reason. It was very early. It took me years to get to a point where I started feeling like the words I was writing were actually reflecting what was inside my head. But I started getting there closer and closer, and over time, it became less reaction to other works and more truly original works that were just in my head as inspiration hit me. That's kind of how I started writing. What is your publishing path? Okay, so I feel like publishing has changed a ton just in my lifetime. When I was 16, it was totally different from what it is today. So I don't really want to say for sure what route I'm going to take publishing-wise, but if I had to choose today, based on the information I know, like if I was ready to publish right now today, I would say I will go with small house publishing for my novels and self-publishing for my short stories. Short stories are very, very hard to publish, so I would either choose literary journals to put them in, or I would just go for self-publishing and collections. Next question is, what do you bring to the YouTube table for Authortube? And aside from my creepy aesthetic, I am in the process of moving to Japan for working there for a year, so there might be some interesting content down the line for this coming year of 2020. I also have a collaboration I'm doing with an artist next year, so that might come into play as well. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do any filming pertaining to that yet. We're still in the process of discussing it. But yeah, some stuff like that's coming in. I would like to do some experimentation with different kind of writing techniques. I feel like some writing techniques are upheld to such a high standard, such as the hero's journey, but I don't really feel super comfortable about some of them being used as a guide to writing. I don't really feel like that always applies. So I might go into some of that. Biggest struggle, definitely editing. So my biggest problem is goal setting for editing. I have a really hard time figuring out how I want to set up my goals for how much. So definitely let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas on that, or if something works for you. I know a lot of people go by page number, like how many pages they've edited. It's kind of hard for me to gauge that based on the programs I use. it's also, I could do it by scene maybe. I feel like going by scene would be slightly easier, but the problem with by scene is the sizes of the scene vary greatly. I have some scenes that are relatively short and other scenes that are actually pretty big. So that also doesn't work, which I guess is why people go by page. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. I've never really found, so far I haven't anyway, found a really good system. So if anyone has ideas, please let me know. Best skill. So this is kind of a thing, kind of according to other people who have read my writing. A lot of people really, really like the dialogue between my characters. They like my character interactions a lot. And so it's something that other people have identified as my strong point. A lot of people have also told me I have a very strong writing voice, which is great. It can be really hard to find that as an author, so that's good news. I would probably agree with the dialogue just simply because it is really fun for me to write dialogue, and I can get really antsy if it's too long between dialogue for me, which the bad side of it means that sometimes I do struggle with the in-between portions if characters aren't interacting. I've gotten a lot better at it over the years, so I wouldn't say that's a true struggle for me right now. I'm getting over it. But yeah, dialogue's probably my strongest suit. Okay, so a question for Authortube, since I'm so new to Authortube. For this one, I would definitely ask about live streaming. So I know YouTube has live stream options. I've definitely tested it out. Sorry, those are New Year's fireworks going off right now. I've definitely done testing for YouTube Live. The problem is a lot of Authortubers, their lives, they use StreamYard. I'm kind of confused because I know they're still technically using YouTube Live. So yeah, apparently there's something with, you know, you have YouTube Live up and you also use StreamYard in conjunction with it. The thing is, I'm kind of unclear about why you would go through that much trouble. It seems really kind of a finicky thing to be doing. I'm guessing it gives more options or something, but I don't understand how that'd be worth the effort. I'm just kind of confused. I'm just confused about why you'd use two services. So yeah, if anyone has any intel on that of like why one would be used more than the other, or, well, technically they're both being used at the same time, but like why go through that kind of, I would think that that could mean lags could get worse because you're going through two systems or going at the same time on your computer, but I don't know. Let me know if you guys have experience with that or know the technical reasons as to why both are used. I'd be really interested to know. Okay, so any kind of new channels, things I'm interested in. Honestly, I'm interested in quite a wide range. I love experiments and writing challenges. So, I mean, that's actually how I first discovered Authortube, because I've been on YouTube for a long time. I actually first ran into Authortube because of Cavanaugh. So her channel, I will go ahead and link it in the description box, but I found her through her I wrote like in a day videos. She's got tons of them. They're really amazing. They're really interesting as she goes through a lot of really specific techniques to authors, and she'll try them out usually for a couple days, sometimes as long as a week, to really see if they actually work in the long run for her. And I find those really entertaining and really interesting. So stuff like that. My very first novel, which I am right now in the second variation of, that one was actually a writing challenge technically. It was the March Hair Dare. So it was a prompt, would be posted every morning, and you had 24 hours to write a chapter or a short story based on the prompt. And that went on for an entire month. And that's how my very first novel was done. So I really love stuff like that. So any channels that pertain to that, please let me know in the comments below. I am totally into that. I do a lot of bullet journaling. So a lot of things pertain to that I also am really interested in. So yeah, those kinds of things are definitely top of the list for sure. So what are you most excited for the start on YouTube? Definitely connecting to other authors a lot more, as well as recording my time as an author. I don't have a lot of records personally for myself about my progress as an author, so I can't, for example, let you know exactly what was going through my head when I was writing the first variation of Clock Strikes. I honestly can't tell you. I don't have any, my memories just are really, really fuzzy at the time. I have no memory whatsoever. I have a little bit of memory of writing my second novel because I was with a friend at the time we were traveling. So some of my memories with her will trigger my memories of writing that book. So for me, because I have such poor memory, it actually really helps having video footage of my process of going through things. Being able to look back on it later and say, oh, well, I was able to get this, like I used to struggle with that. I don't struggle with it as much anymore. Or looking back and saying, hey, I had that goal, I didn't quite reach it. Let's revisit that again. Let's try to hammer that out again. So for me, having these videos, regardless if anyone watches them or not, it's really useful for me as an artist. But I also really enjoy interaction. I try to interact with absolutely everyone who interacts with my channel. I really, really love watching other people's channels. It gives me a lot of inspiration. Sometimes I'll kind of play them in the background as kind of podcasts while I do other things, and it's really inspiring. Yeah, so if you are an author or, you know, you just are interested, feel free to follow this tag. I'll leave the questions down below as well as pertinent links to everyone I've mentioned. And I would love to see your videos. If you do a video response, let me know in the comments below. You can also just answer the questions in the comments below. I'll definitely read and respond. And yeah, glad to be here. And I need to do so much more reading.